Hello and welcome back. If you are new here, thanks for clicking this video. If you enjoy mythology and deeper dives like this, consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Today we are discussing a famous story in Greek myth, a story about a man who tried to rescue his beloved from death and almost succeeded. A story about grief, denial, death, love, and the irrationality that love can bring. The couple in question? Well, it is Orpheus and his love Eurydice. When the woman Orpheus loved died, he was stricken with grief and refused to accept the world as it now was. So he did something no mortal was ever meant to do. He walked into the land of the dead to bring her back. Orpheus was not famous because he was strong or because he conquered kingdoms. He was famous because of his music. It was said that he could charm both the living and non-living with his music. Rivers would slow when he played, stones would sit upright, animals gathered quietly around him, and even the wind seemed to soften when the music began. But none of that mattered to Orpheus as much as his beloved, Eurydice. She was not a goddess or a queen, she was simply a woman he loved dearly. The myths do not spend much time describing their life together, but they agree on one thing. Orpheus loved Eurydice completely. On one fateful day, Eurydice was being chased through a field where she was struck on the heel by a viper. Poison spread quickly throughout her, and before anyone could help, she was gone. The Greeks knew death was not temporary. Death isn't something you can come back from or have reversed. When a soul crossed into the underworld, it belonged to Hades forever. Most people accepted this as part of the order of the world, but Orpheus could not. He mourned Eurydice so deeply that grief eventually became stronger than fear, and when that happened, he made a decision that no normal mortal would make. He would follow her into the land of the dead. Orpheus traveled to the entrance of the underworld and walked inside. That journey alone should have been impossible, yet he crossed the river Styx, where the ferryman Charon carried the souls of the dead. He passed Cerberus, the three-headed hound who guarded the gates so that no soul could escape. Orpheus did not come with a weapon, he brought only his lyre. When he played, the underworld itself seemed to listen. The ferryman carried him across the river. Cerberus lay down and let him pass. Even the restless spirits of the dead grew quiet. Step by step, Orpheus walked deeper and deeper into the realm where no living human belonged, until eventually he stood before the ruler of the underworld himself, Hades, and his wife, Persephone. Hades was not like Zeus. He did not rage or throw lightning or rule through spectacle. Hades ruled through permanence and order. Most people nowadays think of Hades as cruel and evil, but he was actually portrayed as more passive and concerned with balance. His realm, the underworld, existed to preserve the order between life and death. Once a soul entered his realm, it did not leave, not because Hades was cruel, but because the structure of the world demanded it. Yet, when Orpheus played his music before the throne of the dead, something unusual happened. The grief in the music was so powerful that even the shades of the underworld wept. Persephone listened, Hades listened, and for the first time in myth, the god of the dead made an exception and would bend the rules of order. Eurydice would be allowed to return to the living world, but only under one condition. One simple rule was given to Orpheus: do not look back. Take your bride and return to the upper world, but you do not look back until you are out of the land of the dead. But the rule Hades gave Orpheus was never really about sight. It was about trust. Orpheus would walk ahead, and Eurydice would follow behind him. He could not turn around to look at her until they both reached the surface. Doing so any sooner would cause Eurydice to be lost to him forever. Orpheus accepted and began the long journey back toward the surface of the world. Eurydice followed behind him, silent as a shadow. That silence quickly became unbearable. He could not hear her footsteps. He could not speak to her. He could not look back. All he had was the promise of a God he did not trust. Step by step, he walked upward through the dark passages of the underworld, holding on to a hope that felt more fragile with every step. What if Hades had tricked him? What if Eurydice was not really behind him? What if he had walked this entire path alone? The closer he came to the light of the surface, the louder those doubts became. Soon, the pair arrived at the very edge of the underworld. Orpheus could finally see the light of the living world ahead of him. Just a few more steps and the journey would be over, but doubt had already done its work. Hades had asked Orpheus to trust him, but the burden of trust without proof is one of the hardest things a human can carry. Orpheus hoped he had not made the journey for nothing, and just before reaching the surface, Orpheus turned around. For a single moment, he saw Eurydice behind him. She was real, and she had followed him all the way to the end. And then she vanished. She was not taken or stolen, but returned to the underworld forever. For a moment, Orpheus did not understand what had happened. Eurydice had been there. He had seen her, just one step behind him, but then she was gone. Silence surrounded him as he rushed back toward the darkness, calling her name, begging the underworld to give her back. But the rules had already been broken. The bargain was finished. Eurydice had been given one chance to return to the living world, and that chance had been lost in a single moment of doubt. This time, there was no music that could move the underworld. There was no mercy left to offer. The ferryman would not carry him back across the river, and the gates of the dead would not open again. Orpheus was forced to return to the world of the living alone, and that may have been the cruelest part of all, because now he knew something no other mortal could ever truly understand. He had almost defeated death. The Greeks told this story because it reveals something uncomfortable about being human. It shows how powerful grief can be, what it can drive us to do, how doubt can overpower hope. When everything depends on trust, we still want proof. Orpheus did not fail because he lacked courage. He failed because grief and doubt were stronger than faith. The myth reminds us that hope can be powerful, but hope without certainty is a burden difficult for anyone to carry. In the end, Hades kept the rules and maintained the natural order. Orpheus broke them, and the world remained exactly as it had always been. The dead stayed dead. Eurydice returned to the underworld, and Orpheus was left behind with something worse than grief, the knowledge that he had been only a single moment away from saving the person he loved.